Hello and welcome.
Good evening. Good evening. Hello.
Good evening.
Absolute pleasure. G'day. Good evening. And good evening indeed.
Welcome to About Tonight.
Yes, the show that we are on, very much in the sense of both being on it,
Yes, and
also being on it.
On
like
top.
we are on. We are, in a sense, always on the show.
Yes.
And welcome to you.
And to you.
And to me.
And to the viewers.
And to the viewers at home, or indeed in the electronics goods stores, where
Yes.
perhaps they are just walking past a television on their way to buy another television. Now, I don't want to tell you how to do your business, but it does seem rather rude of you to walk just past that first television without so much as giving it the time of day.
Absolutely. And who even buys televisions from a store these days when online retailers, not having the sort of brick and mortar.
Indeed, brick, mortar.
Yes.
I think the problem, very much with these brick and mortar retailers, is that they don't have any of the other resources that go into making a successful retail store. I mean, if I showed up to a brick and mortar shop,
Yes.
and they didn't have lighting,
No,
doors,
or the walls were made of televisions of some sort.
of some sort, perhaps held together with mortar.
Well, then I wouldn't be disappointed about the mortar.
I would think good, more strength to you.
Yes, well, obviously not that much strength due to the weakness, structural weakness of television.
Of the television,
Yes.
the flat screen television. But that's not the real issue.
No, the real issue here is that we are going to be hosting About Tonight.
Tonight. And we are confusing the issue. Confusing the issue, obviously a very successful radio program currently undergoing the transition.
The transition, a smooth transition, much like the transition between colours in a rainbow.
Indeed, or between colours in a different rainbow.
Yes, exactly.
Both equally smooth transitions, and hopefully we will not struggle to adapt like a green tree frog.
Yes.
In a changing climate.
Yes, say a desert, possibly a different rainforest.
A different rainforest where it doesn't understand the layout, or possibly a very important central business district banking job.
Absolutely. Or adapting from his home near a pond to, say, his new home inside a fox's mouth.
Indeed, struggling to... We hope to be more like the brush-tailed possum.
Yes.
Of television, that if it has struggled to adapt, then indeed it has hidden it manfully.
Yes.
Or possumfully.
Very possumfully.
Or possum partially.
Yes. Or possum not at all.
Or not at all, but if it has hidden it not at all, well then it has certainly hidden the hiding it not at all particularly well.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So, we are starting now with television talkback.
The medium of television.
Yes.
Or indeed the large of television.
Or the small.
Or the small of television. Any size of television, hopefully we adapt to your aspect ratio.
Although not on your small little phone screens, as in I just find that deplorable.
I find that I am capable of deploring that, and in that sense, absolutely, it is deplorable.
Yes, so today...
Gather around.
Yes, gather around.
For some talk back.
Yes, we'll be taking calls later. We'll be having guests.
Earlier.
Earlier, that's correct. And we'll also be talking about the issues of the day.
Issues of the day.
News and whatnot.
Yes.
Current events.
Whatnot. I'm particularly enraged about this whatnot.
Yes,
why can't we just pick a knot? And also, what happened to common matters? What happened to pardon not?
Yes, well, of course, pardoning knots. A very popular thing back in the
back when we still had hanging.
Yes, and sailors, of course, they have a lot of knots that they've had to apologise for over the years. The truckers not, unfortunately.
The truckers' hitch, I think, is still waiting for a formal apology from the truckers' union, and I expect they'll be waiting for quite some time. But this is talkback television at its finest, but not just television.
No.
Also telehearing.
Telehearing? We'll probably be sending this out in podcast form later.
It is very much a feast for the senses.
For the senses. I mean, just breathe it in with the nose.
Through the nose. Inhale it.
Inhale it.
Deeply.
Sense of balance might be...
sense of timing.
Sense of timing. And obviously the the final sense.
The final sense, which is the sense of rightness that you get when you see a thing in its proper place.
Yes.
And we hope to be serving that up for you this evening. But that is not the real issue. Moving on.
We will be going to a break, and we will return very soon. You're watching Confusing the Issues About Tonight episode. Thank you very much. And now for us,
Moving on.
the gentlemen, to start looking at what is currently in the news.
Us, the gentleman. What is currently in the news?
Yes.
Obviously, once something is no longer currently in the news, it ceases to be news. It becomes into the realm of history.
History, yes, which is a form of information,
Yes.
which is mostly just ones and zeros,
Yes.
and there's not that much to say about that.
So let's not talk about that. Let's focus instead on current events.
Current events.
And indeed, any kind of dried fruit.
Yes.
Or broader than that.
Yes, cranberry events.
Indeed. So one of the topics that has been discussed recently
Yes.
in the chat
Yes.
classes is the banning of greyhound racing.
Yes.
Obviously, New South Wales has led the pack in this case. Obviously, spurred on by some kind of live bait. I personally am a little suspicious of the lead that New South Wales has taken in this issue. It's very possible that they have been training illegally.
I'm very worried about that.
Very worried and also concerned.
I have noticed a little bit of fresh blood around the mouth of Mike Baird.
Mike Baird.
Suspicious.
Suspicious indeed. He
Yes.
could just have been chewing on his lip.
Yeah, but however, is
Yes?
what other? They're not banning any other type of dog racing, are they?
No, absolutely. It is just purely the grey, coloured dogs.
Hounds.
Hounds
Yes.
even.
Yes.
If you just saw a grey dog, that very arguably could be okay. Although one should point out
Yes.
that from the dog's point of view, all dogs are grey,
Yes.
lacking as they do the capacity to see colour.
Yes, and they're also all hounds, assuming that dogs are capable of recognising animals of their own species.
Indeed. So what does this mean? Will dogs take this news as affecting all of them equally? And will they be up in arms or possibly legs?
Yes.
Leaping.
Leaping upside down, sort of like a cat falling.
Like a cat falling, indeed doing some kind of a backflip, a very dangerous activity for an untrained dog to attempt, possibly injuring them and further reducing their capacity to take place in any kind of racing event.
Absolutely. Which, now that many of these dogs are becoming unemployed, they're lining up at Centrelink.
On the bread lines.
Possibly, learning a form of parkour or acrobatics might be the way for them to go.
Move forward, upskill,
Yes.
as I believe they are calling it. So that is the issue of the banning of greyhound racing. Moving on, if I may.
Yes, of course, if you may.
I am particularly concerned by the Hague's ruling about the artificial islands in the South China Sea not representing the legal domain of China, of our friends in China.
Yes, our good friends in China are now coming up against these, let's call them wet blankets, who are taking away from their claims.
You know I love a wet blanket when there's a fire in the kitchen.
Absolutely.
An oil fire, possibly caused by some neglected chip fat.
Yes, and a wet blanket possibly caused by a bedwetter.
A bedwetter.
You know?
In the United Nations, on that occasion, I would say bedwetting is very welcome, as indeed would be the tribunal at The Hague. I would say, get on in here and help me with this chip situation.
Absolutely.
But this...
I'm trying to just make some snacks for myself.
Indeed, some deep-fried snacks.
And it's turned into a natural disaster.
It's a spill on the scale of the one found in the Gulf of Mexico. You'll remember that time we were on a houseboat, and I also had a similar chip incident.
Absolutely. You've got an oil spill and a fire burning the cupboards, which are made of wood.
Indeed.
Essentially secondhand tree burning. You
Yes.
know, we're Greenpeace.
Where are Greenpeace?
Hey.
They don't seem to have been concerned at all by the issues in my kitchen. I was furious.
But this is
and disappointed.
There's a deeper issue at
There
play
is
here.
a slightly deeper issue, which is that what does this represent? You know, if an artificial island in the South China Sea isn't considered a legal domain, I mean, what is?
What is? A real island?
A real island? Well, I would be very interested to see that indeed.
I'd like to see that hold up in court.
A purely theoretical island?
Yes, yes. Are any of the islands that we make ourselves,
Yes.
are they going to be hold up in court?
Now, no man is an island. I understand that.
Well, they
But
should
maybe
test it.
They should. They should take that.
Maybe some of the Chinese should send out some of their people out into the South China Sea or any sea,
Yeah,
the
or
Dead
any-
Sea possibly,
Yes.
red, you know,
Yes.
and then say this is ours. Obviously, it is. They'll have the paperwork
They will.
to prove it.
You know, they invented paper.
Well, exactly.
I don't know if they invented paperwork. I don't know if when they invented the paper they used it purely for recreational activities.
Were they involved in the creation of red tape? You know, I mean,
a
obviously,
very lucky colour.
obviously there's a lot of oil in these seas. Possibly some of that oil would be used to turn into a polymer, possibly a red plastic polymer that is just a band.
Indeed.
I don't know if any of this would help their case.
You would have thought that the United Nations would bloody love it if that were the case. But if no man is an island, perhaps the simple problem here is that the United Nations in The Hague has mistaken the islands for men. And then, as said logically, that no man is an island, therefore this cannot be an island. They may have, maybe there was a...
Well, my biggest worry
Yes.
is that they're saying no man is an island and no sand that you've just gathered up from the ocean floor and sort of piled in and
Yes.
put a plane landing strip there is also not an island.
And therefore, if an island is not an island and a man is not an island, is an island a man? And therefore, we're caught in a paradox.
And that is my biggest worry.
That is my largest concern.
And that is currently the news that is happening in the world. So we will
Leave you to process
leave
that.
you to process obviously all this information. It is pretty intense at the moment.
Quite a lot to take in.
Yes.
And we will be back after this this interval.
Yes.
Hello and welcome back to
Confusing the Issue.
On About Tonight. I hope you made good use of the break. I know I certainly did.
So did I. I drew this picture. It is a drawing of John Howard mixed with Kim Beazley to remind us of a time when bipartisanship didn't exist, but we wanted it to exist.
We certainly wanted it much more than, in fact, we do have it right now.
Yes.
It was a glorious time. I remember Kim Beazley was on the news, and I remember thinking, that man, I can really get behind that man.
Absolutely.
So I can push him under an oncoming bus.
Yes. Or a leaving bus.
Look, that's true. I was wrong to specify the direction of travel of the bus, because any bus would have done.
Absolutely. Even a stationary bus, him being under the bus, he would have gotten stuck, had to wriggle, he wouldn't have probably been able to get free, possibly the suffocating from the carbon monoxide from the cars that are passing by. And so it would have, in the end, had the same effect.
Ultimately the same effect. And, you know, he was a good man, so while he's down there, maybe he would have tightened the timing belt. You never know. with Kim.
Absolutely.
Anyway, now, in what we are calling a bold experiment in
Very
that format. Very bold, bold, sans serif, possibly even italicized
Absolutely.
experiment.
Yes.
In television, we are now going to be taking some calls live into the studio.
Yes.
I believe via what the kids these days are calling the telephone.
Yes.
And we look forward to taking your calls and answering your questions. So if I understand correctly, we have a caller on line one. There is no line 2. There is a line 3, but we won't be using that.
No.
A caller on line 1, please.
Reveal yourself.
G'day, boys. Big fan. First
you.
of all, wanted to ask, what can we do to defend the true meaning of Christmas?
A very good question, and one which plagues me.
Absolutely.
Almost as much as my tinea and my tinnitus.
Yes, well, both the diseases, you've really been topped and tailed.
I've been topped and tailed.
Topped and tailed with disease.
Yes.
Bacterial infections and obviously...
auditory hallucinations.
Yes.
My life is a waking hell because I do not sleep on account of the scratching and also the whining.
And
but
obviously...
enough about my dog.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Now, of course, some of the tossing and turning has to do with the true meaning of Christmas.
The true meaning of Christmas, which is very much an issue.
Obviously, it is consumerism.
It's the true meaning of Christmas. Well, I think that is consumerism. Yes, indeed. But I think what people neglect when they talk about the true meaning of Christmas is what about the true meaning of Christmas in July? I mean, there is a war on Christmas in July. When was the last time you went into a shop and somebody said, Merry Christmas in July?
Yes, absolutely.
Or for that matter, Merry Australia Day in November.
No, it hardly happens at all these days. Plus, my issue with the Christmas in July sales is that they rarely happen due to them being so close to the end of financial year sales in June.
Rather than having a distinct and separate sale, such as a holiday like this deserves.
Yes, exactly. Obviously, I'm talking about the June end of financial year, not the end of financial year in February. China. Exactly.
Are there two ends of the financial? I guess everything has two ends.
Exactly. A bit of string.
The financial year can't have a single end.
No.
That would be like a magnet with only one pole.
I mean, when's the beginning of the financial year?
You never hear about that.
No.
I stopped. I was told there was the end of financial year back in 1983 when I started paying tax.
Yes.
And since that, no one said start a new one.
No.
I ended the financial year and I moved on.
It's like it is just a continuous financial year that keeps getting its head cut off and then grows another one like some kind of chimera.
Or hydra.
Yeah, or hydra.
Anyway, that is yes, how we can defend the true meaning of Christmas. Moving on, I believe we have another caller, this time on line 1.
Hi, it's Rose from Mooney Ponds. I'm calling you from my 1982 Toyota Camry.
Yes. Beautiful car.
Very reliable.
I've got a question for you. I love you guys.
Thank you.
If you could have dinner with any 30 celebrities, living, dead or alive, who would you invite?
Living, dead or alive. The essential dichotomy of man. What do you consider yourself to be? Are you a living man, a dead man, or an alive man?
Yes,
we must ask ourselves these questions. It's almost a trichotomy.
Absolutely, it is possibly a false trichotomy.
It could be false trichotomy.
Why should you have to choose between living, dead, or alive? I mean, why not dead? Why not people who are... they're thriving alive.
Is it? We may be misinterpreting the question. It could be living or dead alive. So who would you rather have to dinner? Out of which 30 celebrities would you have living or brought back to life as some kind of a zombie?
Let's see. Gandhi, I suppose, would be one.
Gandhi, put him on the dead list.
Put him on the dead list.
He wouldn't eat that much
but
that
also,
way.
Put him on the guest list.
Sure.
While we're there, exactly, he wouldn't eat much. That's more baked potatoes.
But Gandhi probably wouldn't have eaten much alive. I mean, we could have put him on the alive list, and then at least we would have had somebody to talk to instead of this corpse of the Mahatma lying in the corner, probably stinking up the joint and putting everyone else off their food, thus reducing even further the amount that people are prepared to eat, which, thank God, considering we've got 30 guests at this dinner.
Reducing in the same way that we reduced the sauce to a certain point where we don't have enough food for all 30 people.
Indeed.
30, I would say both of us would be also two of the guests that I would invite.
Sure, very, very polite of us, especially if we're going to be doing all this work, not to mention the cleaning up afterwards of Gandhi's internal juices.
That is the thing with having the dead at your meal is the bits and pieces that they're left behind, not only on the table, but also
on the platters.
On the platters. And then also, I reckon we would probably have 27 other celebrities, just random ones.
Picked at random from the phone book.
Possibly
Of course, when you pick celebrities at random from the phone book, very often you don't get the best celebrities, because the ones who keep their phone number in the phone book are very often no longer on their A-list.
No, they're definitely looking for work, like dinner with some gracious hosts.
Indeed,
Now,
and it would be work.
Why wouldn't we just take another phone call?
Well, let's see who else we have on the line. Line one.
Hey guys.
Hello.
Yeah. Hey. I was just wondering. I was thinking about this a bit, but how do we defeat ISIS?
How do we defeat ISIS? That's a very good question.
Very good question with a very good answer.
A very good answer. Fantastic answer.
Absolutely. Einstein once said that the solution to most problems
is not the number 3.
Well, he did say that, but he also said that they would be elegant, like the number 3.
Indeed.
The number 3 obviously is one of those numbers.
Beautiful, curvaceous number 3.
Curvaceous number, depending on what side you've got it on, obviously.
Well, obviously. I mean, if you're sort of rubbing what I consider to be the rough side of the 3, where that little point is in the middle,
yes,
that would be a less than pleasant experience. But the curved side,
getting your hands in there, sort of in the crevice.
Crevice, very often you find, things lodged in the crevice of the 3.
Leftover bits of food. Let's say you're feeding
from a dinner.
Let's say you're feeding your child above the 3. They often tend to drop food off the side of the tray.
Yes.
And so a lot of crusting happening in there.
Yes.
It's very difficult to clean off food after it kind of hardens.
And it's very difficult. Obviously 3 is a prime number, meaning it cannot be divided to allow you to get into that crevice.
No, what you want is it to be like an 8.
Like an 8.
Yes. Absolutely.
I believe those two halves of the 8 come apart into 2 4s.
2 4s or 2 zeros.
Or 2 zeros.
Yes.
That was my essential problem with mathematics, is that the 8, surely if divided in 2, makes 2 zeros rather than 2 4s.
And they say they can't divide things by 0, but you can divide things by zeros.
Indeed. And we will take one more.
No, wait. Obviously, and that is how you defeat ISIS.
No, so I'm sorry. I was moving on too quickly after we'd solved
and
the
unfortunately, we're going to have to put an end to this segment.
Divide and conquer.
Yes, well, we did. We divided and conquered the public.
And the number 8.
And the number 8.
Thank you very much. We will be back after this. What I am assured is a short break.
A break? Let's say a celebration of capitalism. Now, welcome back to Confusing the Issues.
No, I'm very sorry. You continue.
About tonight episode.
And indeed, for that matter, welcome front to Confusing the Issue.
Absolutely.
And welcome side.
And top.
And top. Very often we overlook top, which is a hard thing to do.
Absolutely.
Because it's so high up.
Well, exactly. And welcome bottom.
Welcome bottom to Confusing the Issue about tonight episode.
I believe that is all angles taken care of.
Covered. Taken careful.
Taken careful. Because you've got to be very careful.
Careful, if indeed you wish to take care. Now, you, as you know, I am a huge fan of the animal kingdom.
I've known that about you for many years.
Many years.
And I've been amazed by your stance.
Well, look, as you know, during the Republican debate,
yes,
I was the leader of the Australians for a Constitutional Animal Monarchy movement.
Yes, of course, the lion at the very top.
At the very top, as God intended.
Yes, as the king, as possibly queens.
Sure.
Because of the polyamory that is involved in the Lion Kingdom.
Yes, but that is their business, and I would not intend to get involved.
Obviously not.
But I regard that to very much be the way it should be, and I push against those who are campaigning for an animal republic.
Yes, the hyenas would be the jesters.
Indeed, in a republic.
Yes, and the peasants, I suppose, would be every other animal.
Every other animal.
And speaking of every other animal...
indeed, we now are very fortunate to welcome to the programme Nellie White and her dog.
Yes.
Am I pronouncing that correctly?
I believe so. Nellie.
Well, in that case, I was pronouncing it wrong. Nellie White, her dog Cobus. Welcome to the programme.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So this is a dog.
Yes.
Yes, I see. And how does it work?
Well, he doesn't do. He's pretty unemployed at the moment.
I see. So it's a mammal?
Mammal, warm-blooded.
Gives birth to live young?
Live young.
Well, this is a male, so yes.
So he came from an egg?
He's not from an egg. It's a birthing process.
A birthing process.
Yes.
I have witnessed many a birthing process when I was obviously I've never attended a child's birth, but I have when I was the president of the local marina.
Yes.
Witnessed the birthing process of many a medium-sized yacht. And I imagine it to be very, very similar. One has to take down the sails first before reversing into the birthing position.
Absolutely.
Now, I have a number of questions regarding this animal, if I can call it that.
Would you say it's a beast?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. And does he eat live animals?
He eats kangaroo mints.
Yes.
And
now this would be
mackerel.
kangaroo mints with a CE rather than a TS.
That's right, yeah.
Because I have made that mistake in the past, and let me tell you, my breath was apparently not as fresh as I believed it to be. It was what one person referred to as gamey. But I would like to ask you the question: once same-sex marriage is I'm going to say forced through the political process of this sweet and innocent country, how long will you wait until you attempt to marry your dog?
It'll be probably reasonably quickly.
Reasonably quickly, until you ask for its hand in marriage.
That's right. I mean, we're different sexes, obviously.
So the barriers are minimal.
The barriers. So technically, you could do it now.
That's right.
Are you currently in a de facto relationship?
It's been a year, so we're going to apply for permanent residency.
I believe under Centrelink's rules, you are officially de facto.
But as it stands, were you to suffer some sort of awful accident, since your relationship is not recognised in the eyes of the law, the dog would not be given power of attorney to, say, donate your organs to a worthy cause, or to manage your estate following your permanent incapacitation. And I think that is a disgrace.
Absolutely. And so we're going to take a stand here today and say more rights for dogs when people die.
Indeed. I think the dog should be able to choose to do whatever it will, or indeed whatever it won't,
yes.
In the interests of the human being.
Now, when you look into the dog's eyes, do you see a soul?
I do, yeah. He's definitely a very soulful beast.
Sort of in a music style?
Sure. Well, I sing to him, definitely.
You sing to the dog?
Yeah.
Sort of old Otis Redding tunes, or?
Yeah, anything.
Would you consider changing the words to sitting on the dock of the bay to sitting on the dog of the bay, or indeed the dock of the dog, or indeed dogging on the sit of the dog,
or dog?
It's all of that. I'm not particularly good with lyrics, so anything that rhymes with dog.
So we are not all as blessed as Alasdair and myself in the lyrical department.
You're more of a melody person. Could you hum us a bar? That's it.
Dog, yeah.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Absolutely.
It takes me back to the last time you did that.
Which was?
Earlier.
In the pre-show interview.
Now, do you consider it to be a sign of the inequality in this country that dogs are blessed with 6 nipples while human beings have to make do with the usual 2? I mean, when it comes to nipples and the distribution of nipples, we would say that your dog is very much in the 1%. Is that true?
That's true. I am a big believer in nipple equality.
So what approach should that take? Would you be a fan of maybe a taxation system for the dog's nipples to be taken by the government, or possibly a trading market, very much like the carbon emissions trading scheme, where nipples are bought and sold on a large scale sense from a central fund?
I think it's probably better to go for a taxation system, as it would be unfair in a trading system, I think poor people would be unfairly penalised.
Absolutely.
Unfairly locked out of the nipple market.
That's it.
Or do you think we should possibly just forcibly redistribute all the nipples? We cut off all the nipples, put them in a big pool.
Indeed,
and then,
nipple pool.
Yes, and then divide the number of nipples by the number of people and creatures that have their nipples
on
removed.
God's earth.
On God's earth, and then just, give out, say, 1.2 nipples, or, supposing insects have no nipples, suppose we'd probably all be left with a fraction of a nipple.
Fraction of the nipple. I mean, the insects obviously outnumber us. But in a large sense,
yes.
Obviously, if this radical redistribution system were implemented, it would be a struggle for mammals to get the nipples that they need.
Yes, I mean, such a small fraction of a nipple, you wouldn't be you wouldn't be.
I would not be. I know where you're going with this, and allow me to say that before you even finish your sentence, I am 100% on board. I could not agree more. And this is despite my having had surgery to increase my capacity to agree with things, as you will remember during the 80s, when we all did a lot of crazy things that we have since gone on to regret. Not me, though. I couldn't agree more. But as you were saying,
yes.
I'm sorry, I believe I interrupted you. You're about to make a point.
No, I was just going to say, with such a small fraction of a nipple, you would... Look, it wasn't that important. I was just saying it wouldn't be wrong to just call it a nip at this point. Shorten the name as you've shortened the nipple.
That's right, shortened.
To some people, because nipples obviously have their width, but they
do.
also have their depth. And some people, I would say, are pushing an inch. In terms of nipples,
I've been pushing an inch for some time.
Absolutely, they create a lot of drag when you're swimming. To some people, I would say it would be actually a great opportunity for the Australian swimming team.
The Australian swimming team.
If we do this nipple or nip distribution. Anyway. Dogs now. I believe you had a question.
I do. Did you adopt this dog as one would a radical stance on Islam, or did you have it naturally, as God intended, out of the union of a mother and a father and an arrangement with a breeder who happens to have too many dogs at the time?
I adopted him. I saw a photo of him on Facebook. His owner was moving to Taiwan with his wife to have a baby.
And we have all been there.
And so I adopted him last year.
Excellent, thank you. Now, before we go, I was just going to ask one last question. May I touch it?
Of course.
Very good. Well, while my esteemed colleague touches the dog on what I believe is known as the front end of the dog, we will now move on to a short break, after which we will return and present you with something which I believe you will find is different. Hello and welcome back to Confusing the Issue About Tonight edition. Finally a bit of common sense on community television.
Absolutely. It's about time that you guys get to see the truth.
The truth. If you can handle the truth. If you cannot handle the truth, well then I'm very sorry. Perhaps some sort of gloves are in order. Or maybe talk to a doctor about any issues with your tendons that may be affecting your grip.
Absolutely. Truth sensitivity is a very commonplace problem these days, much like allergies to peanut butter.
Indeed.
Who's to say if you were to...
Not me.
No. If you were to puree truth into
Indeed.
a form of butter,
paste.
whether that you would no longer be allowed to bring truth to schools.
A truth bar.
Yes, exactly. Or out of fear of one of the kids going into anaphylactic shock.
Indeed.
Now.
Indeed. And from that would make us, I suppose, an anaphylactic shock jock.
Yes, exactly.
Indeed. Now,
I wanted to say, as you know, I have a love-hate relationship with technology.
Oh,
when I love it, it is a deep, passionate love. Yes, and abiding. Yes.
And abiding.
But when I hate it, it is a deep and passionate
and abiding
hate as well. However,
there are some very exciting developments being made. I'm not just talking about the medium density housing, which is displacing immigrants from Brunswick. No. I am talking about technological innovation.
Absolutely, yes, as well as the ability to create, say, new flavours, say, for shapes or for other sort of biscuits.
Indeed.
You know, technology has now also gone into computers. And some of these computers,
I understand, now contain technology.
Yes.
More technology than ever before.
Absolutely, yes. And so some of these computers now are taking sort of anthropomorphic shapes, much like in a Pixar film.
Indeed.
You know, just random objects now are sort of talking like they're humans. Well, it's happening with computers, finally.
Finally.
They said it wouldn't be done, but then later on other people said that it would be done, and now it is being done.
And now we're saying that.
Yes.
So, without much more mucking about...
Hardly any more mucking about.
Hardly any more mucking about at all. We are very fortunate to have tonight on the program an inventor, an Aussie inventor.
Yes, and his thing.
His thing. His, I believe the technical term is abomination to God's grace.
Yes, yes. It's a creation, some kind of cyborg or...
Yes, a walking, talking affront to the natural order of things.
Yes, I believe a robot is the name.
I always thought it was pronounced rowboat.
Yes, much like the song, row your bot.
Gently
down
the information superhighway.
Exactly.
Indeed.
So, without further ado, please welcome to the stage
Nick and his robot, Robot. Over here.
Yes.
Pleasure to meet you.
Hello.
And so you're Nick.
You're Nick.
Yes.
Excellent.
And here, this is the. Can I call it a?
I am Robot.
Yes. All right. Can I call it Robot?
Yeah, you can call him whatever you like.
That is great. That
Absolutely.
certainly makes it a lot easier for me. Because I have always struggled with the English language and indeed the distinction between different nouns, and so being able to call him whatever I like will streamline the process, I am sure. Now, I have a question.
Yes.
Which is,
Fire away, guys.
where do you get off playing God like this?
Well, you see, I was having a midlife crisis, and I looked at. Do you guys know Deborah Lee Furness, Hugh Jackman's wife?
I am aware of Deborah Lee Furness.
Yes, and I love the work that she does with the adopting of children. And is this what you're saying, that you've adopted this robot from possibly Vietnam?
Well, what I did was I looked at Deborah Lee Furness as a bit of an influence, because old Huey, she's made him into a bit of a robot, and I had trouble getting out of bed in the morning, so I wanted to find God, but I was like, I don't know. Do we all want to find God? Could we be bothered? So I thought what I'd do was I'd build a robot.
So what you're saying is that you're hoping to maybe get this bot into some kind of X-Men franchise, or, possibly a DC franchise, maybe the Superman series?
Maybe appear on Oprah, sliding down a metal cable, maybe also the Man from Oz. I imagine they could be up for a reboot.
Oz.
The Boy from Oz.
His boy.
Well, this is one of my issues with Hugh Jackman's career, is the lack of truth represented by the fact that it was the Boy from Oz, but he was clearly being played by a man. And I found it to be deeply confusing, and I actually stormed out of the theatre. I was watching a different show at the time, so they probably didn't understand what was going on. It was The Odd Couple, I believe, but it only just occurred to me.
Absolutely, and if you don't care about boy, man, or the definitions of words at all, I suppose you don't mind bringing in this just stack of wires and gold.
Fellas, he will always be Kate and Leopold to me. But Robot, tell him how you're going to find God and how we're going to do it.
Creator Nick, he cannot find God, so he creates me, robot, to find God for him.
Like some kind of, exploration robot, like one of those rats that you would attach a camera to and send it into a disaster area?
Yes, which is the modern world.
Yes.
With nothing but the scent of cheese, which of course in this instance represents grace
Yes,
in its nostrils.
Or the gangrenous, limbs of a sort of decaying person under some rubble.
Indeed.
Yes.
Does that also represent grace?
It also represents grace.
Let me tell you, I have seen both, and they do have a very similar odour.
Yes.
It's unfortunate. You know how gangrene often smells like almonds?
Yes, I do.
Then I've also found that it smells a little bit like grace. There's just a hint of grace in the back end.
Yes.
Which is actually what my proctologist told me after my recent appointment, and I took that as a good sign. A hint of grace in the back end.
And so you were saying you were going to find God for...
Yeah.
Yes.
I originally had a moose with a camera on the top to find God. I didn't have a rat.
Yes.
But then I thought I'd get a robot because I got addicted to the song "I'm on Fire" by Bruce Springsteen.
Oh, beautiful song. The Boss.
The Boss, yes. Still looks great.
I am on fire.
Check out Woman's Weekly. He is looking great down on the beach. Anyway, so I listened to I'm on Fire, but I only had the single on record. So I needed something to look for God, but also change the record when the needle came off.
Of course.
And that's what Robot does. You do it great, don't you?
I have two functions. I flip record, I search for God.
I see.
And so the flipping of the record, and it does this flawlessly, because I know what it's like to, you have a record, they only go for 10, 15 minutes on one side, and then you have to flip it, and so he sort of knows, he can hear the scratching of the needle against the non-musical part of the record, or possibly occasionally the plastic if the needle has gathered fluff, no longer has that sort of binding gravity that keeps it down on the thing.
Indeed.
And he just knows.
Yes, I also programmed you to have a kind of in-between monotone and Middle Eastern accent that you never really know what he's doing.
And what part of the Middle East does the accent come from? Uzbekistan? Kazakhstan?
Turkmenistan?
I'd say it's somewhere on that big railway.
Yes, the big railway of life on which we are all but coal trains, hopefully heading towards the Adani Carmichael mining sector.
Yes,
Coltrane, the jazz Coltrane?
Very possible.
Very much. All on the back of John Coltrane.
John Coltrane, the famous, I believe, saxophonist.
Yes.
Now, speaking of saxophony, but also moving on, I understand that, a lot of people's questions regarding a humanoid robot would be, is it possible to have sex with the robot? But that is not my question tonight.
No.
My question tonight is it possible to not have sex with the robot? Because he has only been on the program for, I'm going to say, 5 minutes. I am also, I am on the verge of something unspeakable. His charisma is through the roof.
Yes.
Well, folks, I'm not some kind of weirdo, right? I'm not some kind of Liberace that would get an apprentice to dress like me, dress in the same coloured pants or top. I would never do anything like that or have sex
Thank goodness.
with the robot. I just wanted him to change the record and look for God. But some things, in order to look for God, take a bit of time. Sometimes you need to find yourself sexually, or they need to find you sexually in order to find God.
Exactly. And sometimes we find God, obviously, in the most passionate of places, and I understand entirely. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you both for appearing on the program. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Nick. And good luck. And before you go, obviously, I find this to be an affront. Do you mind if I spit on the robot?
No, please don't spit on the robot, as we need to change the record soon, and I can't have any risks.
I totally understand.
Well, then I will refrain.
Also, you're spitting on the robot, you're spitting on me. And only spit on myself.
And never a truer word has been spoken. Certainly not on this program. Thank you very much. We will be back after this short interval. Hello and welcome back to Confusing the Issue. About Tonight edition. Now, so the other day, I was telling you I took my cat, my feline companion, to the vet.
Absolutely.
And the vet informed me that the cat needed to have its anal glands expressed.
Of course, yes.
And it occurred to me then,
yes,
subsequently, that it was a shame that the cat is able to express itself in a way that I have never felt comfortable doing. And I don't just mean via the anal glands, because God knows that's an uncomfortable process.
Yes, or via a veterinarian.
Indeed.
Yes.
Hey, and, to his credit, the veterinarian has never been comfortable with that either.
No.
No matter how many times I suggested. But I would like to be able to express myself, and I discussed this with you, in an artistic sense.
Of course, yes. As men, we take our emotions and we bottle them up.
Bottle them up.
Yes, but occasionally these emotions need to come out, possibly onto some paper, maybe humming a tune,
yes,
or
clicking.
Obviously in an explosion onto maybe one of your loved ones.
Yes, an explosion of either ecstasy.
Yes, or aggressive expression.
Or dissatisfaction.
Yes.
Indeed. Now, so I believe you have written some poetry.
Yes, well, obviously I've been trying to get more in touch with my creative side.
Yes, the left, I believe.
Yes, exactly, yes, the left, sort of the top left.
The top left?
Yes.
It's more a corner
to be
than
honest,
a full side.
Yes, to be honest, it's more of a node than it is a plane.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please, so...
I'm like a 3D polygon.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so this one is called Standing in Line at the Self-Serve Checkout on an IGA Mini-Mart.
Beautiful title.
Yes. Here I go. Standing in line at the self-serve checkout of an IGA Mini-Mart.
It's what it said on the tin. Very good.
The sound of the machines like submarine radars. Boop, boop, there's a Kit Kat. Boop, boop, Brangelina's in trouble. Listen. Unexpected item in the bagging area. Unexpected item in the bagging area. Boop. Thank you. Over to my left, a kid falls down. Wah! Over to my right, a display goes up. Uh-oh, it's my turn to go up. Be alert. Searching for the spot. Look left, look right, look up, look down. Uh-oh, a tap on the back. I missed one. Shame, shame, shame on my name. That was about standing in line at the checkout, self-serve checkout of an IGA Mini-Mart.
That is fantastic. I wasn't aware that the IGA Mini-Marts had self-serve checkouts.
Oh, in some of the sort of bigger metropolitan areas.
Your Richies.
Your Richies and your
Peter Montes.
Yeah, absolutely. And somewhere in Port Melbourne.
Very possible.
Yeah.
Look, I appreciated that. And I felt like I became closer to you.
Yes, well, as you know.
As a man.
What it's like to share an experience with me.
Yes.
Other than, talking out loud.
I had no idea that you shopped.
Well, the bond is now, between us, is now unbreakable.
We are as close as it is possible to get outside of the trenches.
We are bonded like the electrons and the protons in a helium atom.
It's a very strong bond indeed. Now, I myself as you know, I am a master imaginer of dystopian worlds.
That's the only thing I know about you.
Yes, I am a dystopiarist, if you will.
Yes.
I carve hedges into the shape of things to come.
Of course, like your mother on her birthday for cake.
Yes, I was going to say that, and then I thought I shouldn't.
Yes, of course.
But I'm glad you have the bravery. Anyway, so this short story I've written, it's in the mould of a brave new world.
Yes.
But if anything, it is a more vicious vision of the future, and as such, I have called it a bad new world.
Oh, very brave.
Yes, very brave choice. I thought that. Jessica shuddered with the cold. It had been 6 months since the Greens had been elected to government and had forced a transition to 110% renewable energy.
Oh.
Despite the fact that she now had to ride an exercise bicycle 3 hours every night to power the lamps to provide the extra light to the hideous black solar panels that clung to her roof like the new Vice President Peter Garrett's new toupee.
Oh.
There still seemed to be never enough energy to warm the house. Perhaps it was because it was all being sucked up by the new hydroponic marijuana plantations that had been built on the ruins of the once glorious Flemington Jumps racing course to provide the now compulsory 6 joints per child at the nationwide network of Rudolf Steiner universities. Perhaps because now there was no carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, global cooling had squeezed its icy grip on the Australian mainland like the cold hand of a clock. If as well as having a big hand and a small hand, it also had a hot hand and a cold hand, so we could tell the temperature as well as the time. Actually, that's a good idea. That's mine. You can't use that.
Never would.
When had it all started to go wrong? She wondered as she slaved over a halal wedding cake for the family of lesbian refugees that had been assigned her house, forcing her to live in a tent in the backyard. She knew the answer, but she couldn't let her face reveal the truth of the inner turmoil for the sake of her children, who she knew she could ever look in the eye to explain that it was she who was to blame for everything, almost as much as the foreigners and the government. It was she, along with so many other Australians who had turned their backs on the common sense of the talkback radio presenters across Australia and woken the country to this nightmare. If indeed, one, you can wake someone to a nightmare, and yes, I just checked, you can if the waking world is worse than the actual nightmare in which they were. Even if the country had been having a nightmare, like a really bad one with a weird old lizard that wants to kiss you, but it's your mum's face on the lizard, but it's not your mum, but it sort of is, but it's not, but it still is sort of, that the country woke up to, it still would have been worse than that also. You know, while the story does indeed go on...
Of course, yes.
...and explore some rather interesting angles...
Well, you know, a certain future almost.
A certain future, one could call it. That thus ends Book 1.
Yes.
And I think it's a salutary lesson.
Well, I am terrified. And as a man with one small hand and one large hand, I really felt for that clock.
Oh, absolutely. That brings us, I believe...
to the end.
On that slightly terrifying note, to the end of the what I'm going to call an episode.
Yes, of confusing the issue.
Yes. Confusing issue. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to watch About Tonight again next week. And we will see you...
on the other side.
On the other side. Thank you. And good night.
Now, did you enjoy that clip?
I certainly hope so. It's very much your right to decide whether or not you did or did not enjoy that clip.
Absolutely.
As it is our right to ask you your position.
Yes.
And you should be forced to reveal that publicly. But if you did enjoy it, there is plenty more the clips like it.
Yes.
On the Comedy 31 YouTube channel.